Welcome back to the Blackletter Podcast. We set out to create an entertaining and exciting podcast about law and business. Blackletter, the name, comes from the Gothic typeset. Over time, Blackletter became the only font that English law books were printed in. It made it harder for kind of the common person to understand what the English law books said. Blackletter came to represent something that was law, that was set in stone, that was sort of old and a well-settled fundamental principle of law. We're here to demystify black-letter law. We're here to demystify things that happen in business and law and where those two meet. And I hope you have fun listening. Hi, this is Tom Dunlap. Welcome to another episode of the Blackletter Podcast. Today, it's a special episode. Joining me is Gerald LeMelle. Gerald is an immigration attorney, and it's special because it's timely. H-1B visa dates and deadlines are coming up. There's also something called an L1, and there's also employment-based immigration green cards. And all of these things have deadlines. All of these things are complicated, and all of these things are things that Gerald does. So we're kind of putting out a Blackletter Podcast alert. Gerald, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining me.
Pleasure to be here.
And thanks for sharing with our listeners kind of what's going on in the immigration world. So let's start with a little bit about you. So I know you used to work for Amnesty. You've been doing this for decades. Tell us a little bit about your immigration law background.
Yeah. Well, it actually started in the fact that I grew up overseas. I grew up my formative years. I lived in Kenya, Tunisia, in southern France. And I've always had an affinity for immigrant communities here in the United States. And I started working in human rights work some 36 years ago.
Wow.
And it's a natural gravitation towards immigration law. And so I've been practicing ever since then, including a stint as Deputy Executive Director of Amnesty International, where we obviously worked a great deal in immigrant communities. When I decided to go into solo practice some 14 years ago, private practice, I should say, it was a natural to, again, help immigrant communities to adjust through the complicated immigration system in the United States. So this is where I am.
Great. So I know you've been working at DBL for quite a while, some years now, doing mostly things that, and I send work to you and other lawyers all over the firm and outside of the firm send work to you. And you do something called an H-1B visa, you do an L1 transfer visa of some kind, and employment-based green cards. What are those three things? Just give us a little bit of overview on these three major items.
Yeah, well, I will say we do family visas as well, but the three you mentioned are the most popular with our business clients. And what we established here at DBL is a business immigration practice. The most popular business immigration tool that companies use is the H-1B program. This allows companies to find foreign talent to bring to the United States. These are people with highly educated and highly skilled.
Have to have at least a bachelor's degree.
Have to have at least a bachelor's degree. Yeah. The most important thing about the program is the job description. The job description has to include a theoretical and practical application of highly specialized knowledge.
Gotcha.
So you can't be, they can't hire somebody
marketing associate
or wash windows, but bachelor's degree required and
so something like, I know that you do these for a biotech company that's a client of mine. So PhDs, I know you've brought those over. I think we have at the firm, we have an H-1B attorney, maybe more than one that have from Korea and some other places. And so what other kinds of companies? IT companies?
Well, IT companies, mostly the same areas. So scientists, IT, medical professionals. We bring a number of different types of employees, engineers. One of the things that they're discussing at USCIS is actually expanding the H-1B, the categories of H-1B professions.
How would they expand it? What would they add?
Certain professions that may not require a bachelor's degree.
Okay.
100%. Right. So, in the past, if a profession didn't require a bachelor's degree, they would absolutely deny. Now they may be expanding it to say that.
I see. So if you could prove it's a technical job, even if there's no bachelor's degree.
Well, no. You still have to prove that a bachelor's degree is required. It's just that if there was a part of the profession that you could come to and work at without a bachelor's degree, they would deny. So now they're saying, well, if a profession is, there may be parts of this profession that don't require a bachelor's degree, they may start accepting.
Gotcha, like a paralegal, patent paralegal, something technical. Okay, gotcha. So Gerald, I know that there is a sensitive time deadline coming up. Tell me a little bit about what's so important about H-1B visa timing this time.
Yes, this is very important for companies to know. The reality of the H-1B program is you can apply for it at one point in the year. Now, this doesn't apply to cap-exempt H-1Bs, which are nonprofit organizations, but for businesses and for the majority of our clients.
So all for-profit organizations, this applies.
Absolutely. So with the H-1B program, you have 85,000 visas given out every year. Period. And you have to register between March 6th and March 24th to be eligible for a chance.
And if you don't register by March 24th, you're done.
You're done.
So the next
you have to wait till
now. Can I ask you, do they always give out all 85,000? Are there more than 85,000 applicants?
Oh, yes. So one of the interesting pieces of history with regard to the H-1B programs, in the early days, as late as 5 years ago, you used to have to submit the H-1B applications on April 1st.
Okay.
So you may recall the first floor of the law firm, we would have nothing but papers everywhere as we were preparing petitions to go out on March 31st by FedEx so that they would be at USCIS by April 1st. So 4 years ago, they decided to go to a registration system. So what they would do is people would register, companies would register their beneficiaries for a lottery.
Okay.
They register for a lottery because they're typically about 250,000 applications.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So they have less than half of those people get an H-1B visa.
Yeah. So what they would do, the lottery would whittle the numbers down to about 100, 110,000. And out of those, they would select 85.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, but one of the big changes, there's a huge change that happened this year. And, last year, there were over 700,000 applications.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. 700,000 applications for 85,000. So like just over 10%. 12% of the people are getting in.
Yeah, but one of the things is when there's a new system, there are people who try to game the system. So
really, that's incredible, shocking.
Can you imagine?
Yeah, I cannot.
Well, so what was happening in last year was a number of beneficiaries would register through several corporations.
Okay. And then, so for the same H-1B visa, they would submit multiple applications through different corporations so they'd have a better shot at the lottery or a better shot at this. Gotcha.
And then one of the other things that would happen is, a company might register somebody for an H-1B and then set up 4 or 5 dummy companies and register through each of the dummy companies. And then if they were selected, they would shift the resources, and that would be the real company. So,
wow.
Well, they try something, and then USCIS gets wise to it, and they adjust. So this year, the registration is the selection for the lottery is going to be based on your passport.
Oh, wow. So that means one app per human.
One app per human.
Gotcha.
Now, one of the things they have to do is they have to assess that people are using the correct passport, that, they're not using someone else's passport and USCIS has said that they're going to crack down on that. They haven't.
So how much will that reduce from 700,000 applicants? How much is that going to reduce it? Back to 250?
It's going to be back to about 250.
So that was a lot of gamesmanship last year.
Yeah, okay. Absolutely. And there was a lot of hue and cry because it was unfair to a lot of the corporations that were doing it the right way.
Right, that were playing fair. Got it. So tell me about L1s now. So I know L1s are a different kind of visa, and you said to me before the show that they're super popular with our clients, and it's another way to bring an employee over from a foreign country.
Yeah, so these are actually considered amongst the easiest visas to get because These are employees who are basically intra-company transferring within the same company. So if a company has a branch or a subsidiary or a parent company overseas, they can transfer an employee to the United States.
So if you have an employee, you have an office in Paris and an office in London, an office in New York, you can bring your Paris and London employees to New York with an L1. You don't have to do an H1B. That's for somebody you don't employ presently that you would employ only in the U.S. Either you only have a U.S. office or you haven't hired them in your foreign office.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
And I say it's easy. There's no such thing as an easy visa in the United States. Immigrating to the United States has never been easy, and it's not easy going forward. But the advantage of the L1 is that you don't have to pay a prevailing wage, and you don't have to go through a perm process or a certification process with the Department of Labor.
Okay.
So you could just make the strategic decision that you want someone to transfer somebody. However, there's a lot of detail involved in that.
It has to be an actual company, I bet. You can't set up a shell to hire an employee and do an L1. Because that's the first thing I thought.
Yeah.
I'm like, how do I game this?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the reality is you have to prove the business reason for the transfer.
Okay.
This can't be because, my friend wants to move to New York. It's got to be.
It's not quality of life.
No, not at all. There has to be a business, and that's paramount.
Wow, that's a tough hill. So tell me finally I know there's a third thing that we do, and that's a business-based green card or immigration. Can you explain that?
So there's an employment-based
green card. Sorry.
No worries. So there are 3 types of employment-based green cards. The first is called an EB1, which is for either highly skilled, extraordinary ability, people with extraordinary ability. I like to refer to these as third-party green card. These are people who have extraordinary ability, but if you are making your case for extraordinary ability, you're not going to get the green card. It has to be other people's case.
So what do you mean, like a university wants to bring over a professor, special professor, something like that?
Yes. So in this particular instance, you need references in order to bring that person over. So if the dean of the college reference is not going to mean anything. It's got to be people who from the industry who would have no other reason to know you except you're
so famous. So it's not bachelor's degree or PhD. This is like a famous person.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Okay.
And in addition, when you come to the United States, you have to be doing something. So in other words, you can't come on an extraordinary ability green card and say, I'm going to sit on the beach and figure out what I'm going to do.
That's what we brought Einstein over.
Exactly. He had to work.
Fantastic.
No, absolutely. But the other, there is an intercompany transfer EB1 as well, which is, but again, it's like the L1 on steroids.
Gotcha. So it's harder. Why would you ever do that if you could get an L1?
Well, these are people, if you wanted to transfer somebody to set up a whole branch or set up a department.
Like the president of Disney China or Disney Europe could come over here.
Exactly. And he has a I don't even know if there is such a person, by the way. No, there may well be. The most popular, though, that we work on are called EB2s, which is, again, skilled people with bachelor's degrees and at least 5 years of experience who come. These are, employers in the United States who feel that these. So
that's what we have at the firm. The lawyers at the firm, I think they're EB. Is that an EB2 visa that we have?
We actually have a lawyer. We have a couple of lawyers who come here on the EB2.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay, so they're not H1Bs. H1Bs are temporary.
Exactly. So both of them came on the H1B, and then we
transitioned to EB2. Interesting. And what's the third type of employment-based visa?
So there's
immigration.
It's basically an unskilled EB3, and they're a little harder to get, but with proper navigation, we've been very successful.
So wrap this up for me. So the timeline for all of these, is it the same? Is it March 4th to 26th, or they differ for L1s?
No, L1s and employment-based green cards can start at any time.
So the H-1B is the crazy thing that we have to worry about. We have this very limited time, very limited pool because they're so popular.
Exactly. And so this is why we want to reach out to businesses as quickly as possible. The reality with immigration is there's a lot of work. There's a lot of legwork to preparing a petition. And if people are interested, we encourage them to get in touch with us as soon as possible. Because right now, one of the changes that they've made to the H-1B program is the registration process. It used to have a fee of $10 to register. Mm-hmm. Now it has a fee of $215.
Gotcha.
And it's because they're taking the registration process a lot more seriously.
Gotcha.
You have to prove that you are eligible for the H-1B.
So people can't just pay $10 and put a bunch of names. Spam the immigration system. Exactly. So 3 things that people should remember to listen to this show. It sounds like one is H-1B visas are limited. There's a limited number. They're time sensitive. So you got to do it between March 4th and March 26th or you're done for the year. Sure. And what's the third thing? Just trying to think of 3 because people like 3 things.
Yeah. Well,
use an expert. Don't try to do it yourself.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, the reality is, when people often ask me, do I need an attorney for this? And my answer is always no. You don't. You can try and go at it alone. But I would say this, immigrating to any other country is going to be difficult. Right. Most countries protect their borders. They set up immigration laws to monitor how people come in. If this were color by numbers, everybody would get in. You'd have 1 billion people coming to the United States.
I went to high school in Switzerland.
Yeah.
Anybody in. I don't know if you have any idea. They're their borders are 6 months to work there, as a street cleaner or something. That's the most they do.
Exactly. But when I'm walking across a very difficult terrain, a minefield, if you will, I can walk it alone, or I can walk with somebody or I could go with somebody who's done this 1,000 times. Right. And what I would say to you is that immigration is not designed to help. It's designed to stop people from coming. And we have 36 years, myself, my lead paralegal has 24 years of help guiding people through this process.
You guys have 60 years collectively. Plus our firm.
Plus we have a firm of amazing associates and other lawyers to help. We'd love to help you.
Awesome.
Achieve your goals with regard to.
Awesome. Thank you, Gerald. Perfect. Pleasure. We're going to get this message out. Thank you for joining us for this episode, this special time-sensitive episode of the Blackletter Podcast, which we're pushing out to you now. Download us wherever you get your podcasts, iHeartRadio, iTunes, Spotify, whatever you like. We'll see you next time on the Blackletter Podcast.
That's all for today's episode of Blackletter. Thanks again for listening. Join us next time when we talk about more Blackletter issues in creative ways. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode, and check out our website at blackletterstudios.com.